Okay, so in a previous lesson, we installed our base Windows image that you can see here. However, to get ready for the course, we're going to need to do a couple of quality of life configurations and also get our course files onto the machine. And so let's start up our Windows 10 VM again if you don't already have it running. And once we're loaded in, and we're on this lovely desktop screen here, well, what we want to do first is some things that we would honestly never want to do if this was a real production system in the enterprise. But in the case for our lab environment, and being able to interact with our Ubuntu VM and set up some really cool attack and defense scenarios, well, we're going to turn off Windows Defender, our sort of built-in endpoint antivirus. And again, this is because we're going to be creating some very basic malware later on in the course so that we can see what kind of artifacts it leaves on our system. And if we don't do this step, well, then Defender is going to get in the way and be really annoying and basically just yell at us a ton, which is nice. I really appreciate it, but for the case of trying to showcase some safe examples of malware, it's not really ideal for a use case. And to demonstrate that, well, I can just open up a PowerShell window here, and you don't have to follow along. Don't worry, I'm just kind of demonstrating here. And within PowerShell, well, I can just run the invoke Mimikatz commandlet. And don't worry if you don't know what Mimikatz is, we're going to talk about it later on in the course. Just know that it's bad. And even if I try to run it, I don't even have Mimikatz installed on my machine, but it's already yelling at me that this script contains malicious content, even though the script doesn't even exist. It's already been blocked by, again, Windows antivirus. Another way to demonstrate this is I'm just going to open up my browser here, and I'm going to do a search for the EICAR test file. And this is basically a test file developed specifically to test out things like the response of antivirus programs. And it's completely harmless, but Windows Defender should kick in and pick it up immediately and say, hey, this might be malware as soon as we try to download it. And so what I'm going to do is scroll down to the eicar.txt file, and I'm going to try to download it. Smart Screen is probably going to yell at us, and so I'll click on more information and just click on continue. And this is it. This is the malware that Defender is already piping up against. And so I'm just going to right-click and save as, and just try to save it to my downloads folder. And immediately, we got an alert that Microsoft Defender found threats, and this file should not exist anymore. Yeah, there we go. And so, to disable Windows Defender, well, first what I'm going to do here is go under the Start menu and type in Windows Security. And I'm going to click on the Windows Security application and go under Virus and Threat Protection. From here, I'm going to go under Virus and Threat Protection Settings and click on Manage Settings. I'm going to scroll down to Tamper Protection and just check it off to turn it off. We're getting a warning here that our device may be vulnerable. That's okay. And what we want to do now is open up a PowerShell window as administrator. And so to do that, I'm going to go under the Start menu. I'm going to do a search for PowerShell. And when we see the PowerShell application, we can either right-click and click Run as Administrator, or go down here and just click on Run as Administrator. We just hit Yes to this UAC prompt, and we're now in PowerShell as an administrator. And from here, we just need to run a couple of commands, which fortunately now we can copy and paste, and I'll have them listed down below. And the first one here is going to disable the real-time monitoring features of Defender. And this next one here is going to disable the scanning of network files. You can see we're already getting notifications that Defender has been turned off. And then a couple more commands here. And lastly, we're going to add a key to our registry to actually turn off Windows Defender. And so this is a long command, so you don't have to type this out. Again, you can just copy and paste. And to paste into PowerShell, you can just right-click if you have something on your clipboard. So I'm just going to run that. We can see completed successfully. And now, if I search Windows Security again in the Start menu, go to Virus and Threat Protection, and you can see we have no antivirus provider. So now what I can do is open up PowerShell again. Again, you don't have to follow along here. I'm just kind of demonstrating that we can now run invoke Mimikatz. And this is not going to do anything, so we're going to get a different error, but it's not going to be the same error that it was, disabled or blocked by our antivirus. And so that is a plus. And if I return to this EICAR file, click on Continue, and just right-click, Save As, we should be able to save it now and open the file with no issue. So good, that's great. And so next, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and actually get our course files onto the system. We didn't need to disable Defender to get our course files on the system, I'll just make that clear, but it's for stuff that we're going to be doing later on in the course. And so to do this, we're going to need to install Git, which is the version control system that we're going to be using to clone the course repository from GitHub. And this is all kind of in an effort to make sure that we're starting with the latest files in case anything changes over time. And so what I'm going to do here in my browser is go to git-scm.com. We're now on the web page for the Git version control manager. And under the latest source release here, you can see my case 2.45.2. I'm just going to click on download for Windows. And then under standalone installer, I'm just going to click on the 64-bit for Windows setup. And once that's downloaded, I can just open up the installer file, hit yes, and I'm just going to leave everything as the default option here. So I'm just going to run through this installer. Everything looks good to me. If you wanted to, you can read these options and make sure, you're not signing away your life or anything like that. And it's now going to install. All right, so Git's been installed. I'm going to uncheck view release notes. Don't really care. And now what we can do is run the git command in our command line and actually clone repositories. And so to do that, I'm just going to type in cmd to open up the command prompt. And from here, you can see I'm in my c/users/tcm directory. I'm going to go into my documents folder. So I'm going to cd over into documents. And now I'm going to clone the course repository. And I will have the link to this repository down below if you want to check out the individual files, but we're going to be cloning the entire thing. And so what we can do here is just run git clone and then paste in the link to the Git file. And just hit enter. And that's just going to take a second to download. And there we go. And so now, with this newly downloaded folder, well, we can unzip the course files onto our desktop. And so to do that, I'm going to open up an Explorer window, just with this little folder Explorer icon here, and go into the Documents folder. And we can see this SOC 101 folder here. Well, this is the Git repository that we just cloned. You can see all of the different files and folders within this. And so I'm going to open up the course file directory here, and you can see we have a number of zip files relating to each domain or section in the course. And so all we need to do now is just extract each of these folders so we get access to the contents inside. And so all we need to do is just select the first file here, right-click on it, and then I can click on Extract All. And what I can do is change the location of the extracted files, and so I'll click on Browse, and then I'll just send it over to the desktop. So I'll click on Desktop, and then select Folder. I'm just going to uncheck this to show extracted files when complete, and then I'll just click on Extract. And you can see we're being prompted for a password here. And this is because the class files are password protected, mostly to make sure that you all have access to them, but also because there's some actual malware or things that might get detected as malware within the course files. And so I will have the password that you need to type in or paste in here listed down below. And so I just copied the password onto my clipboard. I'm going to right click and paste it into this dialog box. And then I'll click on OK. And all we need to do now is just repeat that same process for the remaining files. So I'll right click on this one, extract all, send it to the desktop, extract, paste in that password, and repeat. All right. And so with that done, if you wanted to, you can just organize them the way you want to, or you can create a folder here on the desktop. And I can just call this something like SOC 101 course files. And I can just move that up to the top here and just highlight and drag in everything into this folder, just so it's more organized. And within this containing folder, well, you can in fact see we have all of our course files and directories. Nice. And to make our lives easier, you don't have to do this step, but I will just show it just in case. I want to add PowerShell and the command line as shortcuts on my desktop, just because we're going to be accessing them a lot. And so to do that, I'm just going to go down to the Start menu here and type in PowerShell. I'm going to right-click on the application and click on Open File Location. And from here, under Windows PowerShell, I'm going to right-click, go under Send To, and then select Desktop to create the shortcut. There we go, so we have PowerShell. And now for the command prompt, I'm just going to type in CMD. And once again, same thing. Open the file location, right-click on it, go to Send To, Desktop. Nice. And with that, well, we're now good to go with our Windows VM. We're going to install a number of different things and tools as we go throughout the course, but for now, we have our base image and our base installation ready to go.